This is a prime rib roast. It's the ultimate roast. I'm gonna give you my secrets to make it taste better, and I'm gonna give you my hacks to cook it to absolute perfection.
A big thanks to BornyX Smokers for sponsoring this video.
That is my rib roast, my prime rib roast. Now this is the fat cap, not very interesting, but this side, oh, look at that. That intermuscular fat means it's gonna be super juicy. Look at that beautiful rib cap, all the flavor that's in here, and the eye. We got intramuscular fat, we got beautiful red meat. And let me tell you how this came to be. I asked my butcher, Vet Jan, to get me a beautiful roast. And then he dry aged it for me for 4 weeks. And now I have this. Normally, I would just take this beautiful piece of meat and I would just start cooking it. But now we gotta make something special. I wanna make this absolutely perfect. This has been dry aging with the rib roast and it developed a certain amount of flavor. And that flavor from the dry aging is quite intense. So I wanna tone it down a little bit and therefore I need to get that fat cap off. We're not only toning down the dry aged flavor, but we're also creating the opportunity to add more flavor to it later. Because you gotta keep in mind that dry aging process is important for 2 factors. Increasing the flavor by reducing the amount of moisture and making the rib roast more tender. Now one thing most butchers and other people forget is trimming the backside. So basically we're preparing this roast so that you can eat it straight away. You need to serve it up. You don't want to carve it and do all the work at the table. So all sides of this roast have to be absolutely perfect once you serve it up. Now in this case, I'm gonna get rid of all the pellicle that sits on the back. I want to completely expose the bones. We almost created the perfect roast, but look at the way these bones stand out. I'm not a big fan of not cleaning this up, so that's why I'm just gonna take my saw and I'm gonna cut off the end of the bone. Now of course, if you don't want to do this, you can have your butcher do this for you. But you gotta understand what you want and what you're asking for. Another important part of preparing your roast is tying it up. And by doing so, you're getting a nice round shape, which means your roast will be more likely to cook even. Now look at it, an absolutely beautiful rib roast. We cleaned up the back, exposed all of the meat, so now we can put flavor on this side, we can put flavor on this side. The rib roast will cook evenly, and once we start serving it up, our guests don't have to cut off any fat or do anything they don't want to do. Like maybe your grandma will be there for dinner and you can serve her up this. She will be impressed, but it's all about us. Just give grandma some porridge, no? Yeah. And now that we've got this prepared, it's time for the flavor part. I chopped fine a tablespoon of fresh chives from the garden, also fresh from the garden, some thyme, of which I'm going to pluck the leaves and then chop it real fine. And the final fresh ingredient is going to be some parsley. This is about 3 tablespoons worth, fine chopped of course. Now I'm gonna mix it all together because we're gonna make a binder. What a binder is, you'll see later on, but what I'm gonna mix it with is a little bit of mustard. We need about 4 tablespoons of mustard, and if you see it like this, it's kind of like a yellowish green paste, which at the moment is not good for much. If we add a tablespoon of Hennessy, which is a little bit of cognac, then it's going to be a little bit more smooth. And the cognac is going to give it a nice fruity flavor. Now let me show you what this binder is actually for. The mustard with the fresh herb goes on the roast. I'm going to rub it in, just a thin layer everywhere. We don't want the flavor of the mustard to overpower, we just want it to complement the meat. And why do you need a binder? Because we're making a crust full with flavor. And that's made out of 5 tablespoons of the PitmasterX beef rub, 5 tablespoons of breadcrumbs, and 5 tablespoons of Parmesan cheese. Now you're gonna mix that up and work it with your hands until it gets sticky. And then you have this. For this to stick on the roast, you need that binder. It needs a little help to stay on. I'm gonna tap it real smoothly just to make sure it sticks to the mustard. A little tap, there we go. The Parmesan cheese, it's natural MSG, so that's going to be the perfect power booster for the flavors. The mustard is a little bit of acidity in the crust that's just going to make the beef taste better than it already does. And then we got the PitmasterX barbecue rub, which is just a great seasoning for a rib roast like this.
That looks good.
Yeah, that's really impressive. If you show up with this, at your barbecue and show this to your family or your guests, you've already won. We cleaned it up, we made it look pretty, we put flavor on it. What can go wrong now? Let me tell you, there's a lot of things that can go wrong from this point. So I'm gonna show you how to cook this rib roast in the most safe way, and you can't mess this up if you follow this method. First thing that I'm gonna do is take out my meter thermometer, because you need to know very, very accurately if your roast is cooked at the right temperature. And what I'd like to do is stick it in the thick side of the roast, because the thick side takes longer to cook. I'm gonna stick it in, and I'm looking at that stripe, and that part has to go all the way in. Now we need to get it up all the way to 54 degrees Celsius. So I'm gonna set that temperature as my target temperature. You need to know how long your rib roast is going to cook for, and then you know when you need to be done. I can see that scene already. Everybody was waiting for the Christmas dinner and it wasn't done yet. I'll be smoking this roast on the BBQ smoker, and I have good reasons to choose this barbecue. Let's set it to a temperature of 110 degrees Celsius, because I really want that roast to slowly come up to temperature. With 110, you're hitting the sweet spot of just bringing it up to temperature, and at the same time going slow enough for it to cook even and be absolutely freaking perfect. Now, of course, why am I using this machine? Because it's super stable and I'm able to smoke with it. All I need to do is get my wood chips, and you know my preferred wood chips is beech, and just sprinkle a little bit in the hopper and switch it on. And the cool thing is, you have plenty of time to hang out with your friends, family, and you don't have to worry about that rib roast. According to the app, we've been smoking our rib roast for 1 hour and 40 minutes. And now, wow, this is exactly what I was looking for. You can still see the meat through the crust. It's not 100% covered, which means we still allow it to pick up smoke flavor, penetrate into the meat. And as you can see, we generated a beautiful dark mahogany red color on the beef. So now I'm going to stop the smoke generator. I'm going to close the lid, let the rib roast continue to cook. And in the meantime, I'm going to show you how to make my world famous Hennessy gravy. Start by melting 50 grams of butter in a pan. Then add the same volume of flour to it and fry the flour until light brown. Then slowly start adding ½ liter or 2 cups of beef broth. Stir it in slowly so you don't get lumps, and then you have this beautiful gravy. But we're going to take that gravy to the next level by peeling some shallots, cutting them in half. Then again, we're going to melt 50 grams of butter in a pan, put the shallots in flat side down and bake them golden brown. Add a couple of twigs of thyme, a little bit of Hennessy. Woo! That is all flavor. Alcohol's been burned off. Now you're left with very, very tasty onions. And once the flames are gone, we're going to add the gravy back in. A pinch of salt and a couple of twists on a good old pepper mill. And that's how you make the PitmasterX Hennessy gravy. Oh, that's just ridiculous. The total cooking time until now is 3 hours and 28 minutes. That is a long cooking time. Because let's say you want to eat with your family at the dinner table at 6 o'clock sharp. And you calculate 3.5 hours is your total cooking time, and you're just going to calculate backwards. And that will be the moment that you start. But your roast is a little bigger. Or the temperature is a few degrees under the temperature that I started with. Then you're in trouble, because it's going to take ½ an hour longer, or maybe even an hour longer. Oh my, you're not going to be finished at 6, you're going to be finished at 7. And your auntie's Christmas dessert can't wait that long, because it's going to be ruined. Well, that's why you start early, because I'm going to show you the trick that is going to save you in the end. There we go. Oh, what a beauty. Since I'm outdoors, I'm putting on a little bit of aluminum foil. But when you're indoors, you don't have to put on the aluminum foil. If you're putting it on, just make sure you still have a little gap underneath for the moisture to escape from, because we want to keep that crust nice and crunchy. Now, big surprise, we still have to rest this roast for 44 minutes according to the app. And that's correct. You see that the temperature is rising in the roast We went from a 47 to a 48, but it's going to take at least another 43 minutes for the roast to be fully rested. We ended up with a total cooking time of 4 hours and 5 minutes until we reached our target goal of 52 degrees Celsius. Our rib roast is done and is ready to be served up on your beautiful dinner plate. Did you time it to perfection? Then you were lucky. But if you were too late, your aunt was upset, your children were nagging because they were hungry, I'd rather have that you start in time. Let me show you what you do then. You're going to set your barbecue to a temperature of 50 degrees Celsius. If it's not running there yet, just open it up, let the hot air out, and then you can put your rib roast in like that and let it sit there until you're ready for dinner. It's going to be a guaranteed hit. You never ever have to stress again to see if your food is done on time. Oh. Edge to edge perfection. Look at it. No gray areas whatsoever. Completely cooked through. Perfect. Roast beef the way roast beef should be. All right, now let's put some of that gravy on. Oh. Let's get a slice out of this. Oh, there's nothing that can make me happier during Christmas or whatever celebration you're having with a rib roast like this. Come on. Oh,